I think there's something deeply worrying about the story of Lydia Thorpe, which I'll come to in a minute. Because of the way she was escorted from the chamber, she is an elected senator in the Australian Parliament. And I don't quite understand um, how the parliamentary rules can allow for an elected senator to be escorted from the chamber for speaking out, even in a ceremonial occasion. So, at the very start of the visit of King Charles to Australia, his address to the Australian Parliament was interrupted by an impassioned protest from independent Senator Lidia Thorpe. Thorpe, who is known for her staunch advocacy for Indigenous rights, disrupted the event, shouting accusations of genocide and using a sort of F-bomb and demanding the return of Aboriginal land. She passionately declared, "You are not my king, this is not your land." And then she spoke about the colonies in fairly colourful language. I suspect, really, in many ways, her, what should we call it, ejaculation made the whole event so much more entertaining and interesting and newsworthy. It was a stark reminder of the ongoing tensions around Australia's colonial legacy and its treatment of the First Peoples. Her protest, while startling, she's using the language, if a little bit more colourfully delivered, of the Republicans who were protesting during the coronation itself. And it encapsulates a broader debate about the role of the monarchy in a nation grappling with its colonial past and the glaring disparities faced by its First Nations people. She demands a treaty, an agreement still absent in Australia but present in New Zealand, that highlights the frustration of many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities who maintain that sovereignty was never ceded to the Crown. Unlike Canada and New Zealand, Australia has no formal treaty with its Indigenous population, a striking sticking point that in national reconciliation efforts. And Lydia Thorpe's career has been defined by her fierce activism for Indigenous rights. As a former member of the Green Party, when she parted ways in 2023, I think due to a difference in over the voice of Parliament, an advisory body she opposed, believing it insufficient to address the real needs of First Nations people. Her protests are not isolated incidents, but part of this broader campaign for Indigenous sovereignty and a recognition of historical injustice. And her actions frequently divide opinion, with some viewing her as a necessary voice of protest against colonialism, while others, such as the Aboriginal elder auntie Violet Sheridan, have criticised her methods as disrespectful and unrepresentative. The interruption came as King Charles, on his first official visit as monarch, delivered a speech addressing Australia's Indigenous history, and he praised the wisdom of First Nations people and expressed respect for their customs, reflecting his long-standing engagement with environmental and Indigenous issues. Yet her intervention underscored a disconnect between the ceremonial gestures of respect offered by the monarchy and the demands for meaningful action from Australia's Indigenous community. And her protest also reignites the debate about Australia's future as a constitutional monarchy. Although the 1999 referendum has to become a republic was defeated, there has been renewed interest in severing ties with the British Crown, especially following the late Queen's death. And Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, a Republican himself, has indicated that while a referendum on the issue is not imminent, the issue remains unresolved, and the monarchy's role, particularly its symbolic representation of colonial authority, continues to provoke deep reflection in a nation that is still reckoning with its past. Lydia Thorpe's demands for a treaty, recognition and reparation for Indigenous Australians reflects an urgent call for the government to engage with First Nations people on their terms. And as Australia navigates its complex relationship with its colonial history, figures like Thorpe play a pivotal role in keeping the nation's conscience alive. reminding it of the unfinished business of reconciliation. King Charles, despite the forceful critique, remained outwardly unfazed, and the royal visit continued with widespread support. But the interruption serves as a reminder that for many Australians, especially Indigenous communities, the legacy of colonialism is not just a historical matter, but a lived reality that demands recognition and redress. Thorpe's career, marked by her advocacy for Indigenous sovereignty, situates her as a figure in the centre of this ongoing struggle for justice in post-colonial Australia.